So this isn't my story, but a story of my parents when I was about 3 or so. Okay, so some background here. Back then, we lived in an apartment complex where there would be a door between the elevator door and the doors to the respective households on the floor. So basically, when you look out the door, the neighbor's front door is several feet from you. Both of my parents love reading the newspaper, and it was back when everyone preferred paper newspapers over electronic news. My dad had a schedule and he would read the paper on the subway on the way to work. But one day, the daily newspaper wasn't at our door. At first, Dad thought that the paper agency had messed up and didn't care. However, he began to suspect that our neighbors were stealing the paper. This was because every day the neighbor's door would open really early right after the paper delivery time. So he came up with an ingenious idea. He woke up really early before the paper arrived. When the paper finally did come, he had my mom sew a piece of string onto the paper and flipped it on its back so the string wouldn't show. He pulled the string under the door and waited. Then, right when he was about to give up, the string moved back out from the door. Dad leapt to his feet, opened the door, and caught our neighbor stealing the paper in the act. Her excuse was that since Dad worked for a large news agency, we would have all the news we wanted, and that she deserved the paper more than we did. We called the police and had her arrested for theft. She had to pay a hefty $200 fine in the end. I'm a skilled millwright, specializing in the rebuilding of natural gas turbines, working alongside an exceptional crew where each member plays a crucial role. In our team, I serve as the overseer of crane operations, bearing the responsibility for anything lifted during our tasks. Formerly known as a rigger, my role demands utmost precision and caution. If a load were to fall, it would be deemed my fault. If someone were to get injured during one of my lifts, I would be held accountable. Even if equipment were to sustain damage under my watch, the blame would fall on me. The incident I am about to recount occurred approximately 2 years ago. However, to grasp the full context, we need to rewind a couple of years further back. When I first joined this crew, I was a fresh face, eager to prove my worth. After demonstrating my competency in rigging within 6 months, my superintendent promoted me to oversee all rigging tasks. Although I wasn't the fastest rigger, I prioritized safety and ensured that every lift was executed flawlessly, even if it meant taking a bit more time. Consequently, my superintendent trusted me to handle rigging independently, allowing him to relax and focus on other aspects of our work. Around the same time, a fellow millwright named Larry joined our crew. Initially, Larry and I didn't see eye to eye, but as months passed, we developed a friendship. Larry possessed act now, think later mentality, much like our superintendent. Although his impulsive nature led to occasional mistakes, I respected his relentless work ethic and swift execution. Since Larry didn't specialize in any specific area, he often ended up assigned to less glamorous tasks. It soon became apparent that he harbored a significant amount of jealousy towards my role as the rigger. He would occasionally make remarks about taking my position, not with the intention of getting me fired, but rather to demote me and assume the role himself. Whenever an opportunity presented itself, he would approach me from behind while I was reviewing my checklists, pointing out potential oversights, particularly if there were supervisors nearby to witness it. Now, it's important to mention that I grew up in a strict cult, which profoundly shaped my values. In my mid-20s, I realized the harmful practices within the cult and made the difficult decision to leave, despite the heavy price of losing my family and friends due to their strict shunning rules. Certain remnants of the strict lifestyle still linger within me. I abstain from intoxication, tobacco use, and recreational drugs. I communicate professionally, avoiding slang or colloquialisms whenever possible. These distinctive qualities make me stand out in a crew of men who often work in harsh environments, away from home for months on end. On the contrary, Larry effortlessly blends in with the rest of the crew. He swiftly became the superintendent's favorite, showering him with gifts of his preferred alcohol, indulging in late-night activities together, and even rooming with him during our road trips. In contrast, I choose to leave work promptly, hit the gym, prepare my meals for the next day, and ensure I get a minimum of 6 hours of sleep to perform optimally. While this approach may put me at a social disadvantage in the workplace, I believe in letting my work speak for itself. Fast forward about 18 months, and our crew is starting a new project just before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Approximately 2 weeks into the job, I'm informed that I need to attend a mandatory 40-hour class organized by my union. Given that the class is held in a different state, it means I'll be away for nearly a week, including travel time. I obtain permission from the supervisory team, leaving Larry in charge of rigging during my absence. A few days later, I find myself lying in bed, overwhelmed by stress as I contemplate the final test I must take the next morning. Passing this test is crucial, as the entire week's efforts would be in vain otherwise. Although I tend to psych myself out before exams, deep down, I know I have nothing to worry about. I am a diligent student and generally perform well on tests. Suddenly, my phone buzzes, indicating a text message from Larry. The content reads, "I love you, bud, but I'm cutting your throat." Perplexed, I respond. "What are you talking about?" Larry fires back, "When you get back, I'll be the rigger. You can do the menial work from now on." My response wasn't something I'm proud of, but it truly reflected my immediate feelings. Be careful about cutting the throat of someone smarter than you. Now, let me be clear. I don't consider myself the smartest person by any means, but I do take pleasure in reading, studying, and expanding my knowledge. Claiming to be smarter than Larry wasn't an achievement worth boasting about, as it didn't hold much significance. The next morning, I successfully passed the test and returned to the job site. To my dismay, I discover that Larry had indeed taken over my position as the rigger, and he was now exerting his authority while I carried out the tasks he would typically handle. To be completely honest, at first, it felt like a mini vacation, getting paid nearly $40 an hour to clean parts or torque flanges without any added stress. Sign me up. However, deep down, I was genuinely upset. I knew I was better at my job than Larry. I recognized that his rapport with the superintendent stemmed from their shared personalities, but I didn't believe that I should lose my position simply because Larry had more in common with our superior. Despite my frustrations, I had to accept the hand I was dealt and make the most of it. However, just 3 days after my return from the class, our project was abruptly shut down due to the rapid spread of COVID-19 across the country. As a precautionary measure, the plant suspended the project until further notice. We were all sent home for approximately 3 days before receiving a call to assist with an emergency turbine shutdown in a remote area of Alabama. With little time to spare, our crew mobilized, and within 48 hours, we were on the job, braving the challenging conditions of the desolate Alabama countryside. Part 3. With a sense of urgency, our crew dives right into the task at hand. On this particular unit, we need to remove the entire roof in 2 sections using a crane, allowing us to access the enclosed area. Although the roof itself is relatively lightweight, weighing around 7,000 pounds compared to the turbine rotor's massive 100,000-pound bulk, its size and the presence of critical components nearby require careful lifting to avoid any damage. As per standard procedure, the team members who work on top of the roof after it's unbolted must wear full body harnesses and secure themselves to an OSHA-approved anchor point capable of withstanding at least 5,000 pounds of force. To begin the process, we gradually relieve the weight of the roof using the crane until it's hovering, at which point we safely climb down and proceed with the lift until it's lowered onto the ground or onto a truck for transportation. The superintendent gives me a specific instruction. Go on the roof with Larry and assist him. Do whatever Larry tells you to do. I acknowledge his order and proceed to put on my harness, making my way to the top to assess the situation. Larry has already rigged the roof using 4 5-ton chainfalls, which can safely handle up to 20 tons of weight, well beyond the roof's actual weight. Moreover, the crane itself is equipped to handle the load even with the boom fully extended to clear an adjacent building during the descent. However, as I observe the setup, I notice a crucial error on Larry's part. He has forgotten to account for boom deflection. When a crane assumes the weight of a load, the boom tends to flex downward due to various factors, such as the crane's configuration and the load's weight. Consequently, even if the crane hook starts centered in the load with no weight on it, Once the load is engaged, the hook can deviate from its initial position by several inches or even several feet. This means that when the load is lifted off the ground, it may swing, posing significant risks. Swinging can lead to accidents, potentially causing the crane to tip over, collide with equipment, or harm individuals in its vicinity. Realizing the potential danger, I begin assessing the situation and performing calculations. Could this weight, even when swinging, tip the crane? No, not even close. Could it break a chainfall? No, not even close. Are there any workers nearby who could be endangered? No, it's just Larry and me. Is there any equipment that could be damaged by the swing? Yes, there is an electrical control panel in the swing path. Although power has been disconnected, I note the risk of potential damage. In that moment, I decide to let Larry face the consequences of his actions. Larry glances at me, seeking my input. I respond, "This is your show, boss." Perplexed, he asks me to clarify. Meeting his gaze, I draw my finger across my throat, a gesture he understands all too well. Nervously, he starts double-checking everything, yet he remains oblivious to the issue of boom deflection. After a couple of minutes, he assumes that I must be bluffing and proceeds with the lift. However, I intervene, reminding him to secure himself with his harness. Unbeknownst to him, we are about to embark on a rather eventful ride. In my line of work, knowing the weight of the object being rigged is crucial. It allows me to communicate with the crane operator and ensure that the weight is being properly tracked. If the load exceeds 10% of its expected weight, it could indicate an obstruction or problem that requires immediate reassessment. Overexerting the rigging could lead to failures or unexpected movements, posing serious risks like the object launching into the air or other chaotic scenarios resulting from the breaking of hidden bolts. Curiosity gets the best of me, and I inquire whether Larry knows the weight of the roof. He doesn't, but I do. However, I keep this information to myself. Larry starts signaling the crane to lift slowly, and the operator follows suit. As I observe, I notice the boom gradually shifting off center. We're now about 2 feet away from the load's center, meaning a potential swing of nearly 4 feet. I intervene and ask Larry to check the weight on the crane. It reads 11,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds more than it should be. Due to the angle at which we're lifting the roof, it's caught in a bind. It's either refusing to move or we're about to experience an unexpected flight. I prepare myself for the outcome. "Hoist up slowly," Larry commands over the radio. Boom. The roof suddenly shoots up approximately 2 feet into the air, swinging wildly towards the control panel. Larry and I are on top of the roof, swaying like pirates in the crow's nest during a hurricane. We crash into the control panel, bending it at a 45-degree angle and causing significant damage to its components. The commotion attracts the attention of people from nearby trailers who rush over to see what happened. The crane operator is yelling over the radio, demanding an explanation for the chaos. Despite the circumstances, I can't help but smile. Larry, on the other hand, is visibly shaken. He sees my smile and realizes that I had foreseen the outcome. We manage to safely set the roof on the ground, and our superintendent arrives, furious with Larry. He gives him a stern reprimand. When he turns to me and asks why I allowed it to happen, I simply respond, "I just did what Larry told me to do." The superintendent, no fool himself, understands the situation perfectly well. Larry is demoted, and I am promptly reinstated as the rigger. Over the next few shifts, the tension eases and everything is resolved. Surprisingly, Larry and I become good friends after that incident. We've been through a lot together and now have each other's backs. He has since become the foreman of our crew and allows me to focus on my expertise. Failing your way to the top can still be a valid path in our field. I'm genuinely happy for Larry. He's genuinely talented in his new role. And I suppose that's the end of that tale.